I have written a few remarks down because I'm not very good off the cuff. But I first want to say something off the cuff, that this is so wonderful to see all of you in so many different parts of my mom's life, and my dad's life, and our life. I'm just deeply touched by that. So thank you all who are here today. And on behalf of, here's what I wrote. On behalf of my family, I want to thank all of you for being here today. And the kindness that you've shown to my mom over the years. It's really appreciated. I also wanted to say thank you to all my Facebook friends. And that sounds a little weird maybe, but when my mom died and all the condolences that I received from people all over really meant a lot. Thank you very much. And I couldn't stop. I mean, I have to thank my mom for all the good care she gave me when I was a child and my whole life. And I also want to thank her for all the fun. We had a lot of fun, and a lot of it really wasn't appropriate. But oh, what the heck. She was a very strong force in our lives, and we will miss her forever. Thank you very much for being here.
I'm not very good at off the cuff either. I'm really bad, so I'll be reading most of this. While preparing for this day, I began looking through piles of old photos. And I discovered that the ones that most interested me were the ones of my mother, taken when my sisters and I were little girls. I began to remember things I hadn't given much thought to for a long time. It seemed that so many of the things I was remembering involved my mother working hard at all kinds of tasks. There was so much to do in those days without most of today's conveniences. Everything was labor intensive. Take the laundry, for instance. I remember the old washing machine she had at that time. It consisted of a large tub with a wringer at the top, and I know there are a lot of people here today who don't even know what that is. When this machine had finished washing the clothes, then she had to put each item through the wringer and let it fall into a laundry basket. And then when that was full, she got to carry that up a flight of stairs out into the yard, hang everything up, and then wait for it to dry, and then of course take it all down, put it in the basket, bring it in the house, and then iron everything. There were no wrinkle-free or wash and wear fabrics in those days. Of course, then there was all the cleaning and the cooking and the mending and the sewing and all of the myriad of things that mothers do. Mom was a very good cook and baker, skills she had learned from her mother. I have very fond memories of my sisters and I coming home from school to find freshly baked homemade cakes waiting for us. Just about everything we ate was homemade because in those days there was no fast food, takeout, or pizza delivery. There wasn't even any pizza yet. Mom also made a lot of our clothes. I remember that when my Uncle Arnie got married, she made the dresses that Sue, Terry, and I wore to the wedding. Mom continued to work hard all her life until macular degeneration and advancing age began to slow her down. She was still a speed demon with her walker, however. I know that behind all the hard work and the sacrifices she made for us was a mother's love. And I'm so glad that I was able to pay her back in some small measure as she grew old. I'm so grateful to have had these last years to spend with her. Often listening to her talk about the old days, remembering all of the family members we lost along the way. It seems impossible to believe that my mother isn't here, and I miss her so much. I want to be able to call her up and tell her all about today. Goodbye, Mom. I love you.
Okay. Well, I'm Thelma's favorite grandson. Let's start with that. I'm also the only grandson. That didn't matter. To me, she was my grandma, and I know that she was Sharon and Sue's mom, but she was also a daughter, and Axel and Valborg were her parents. And for a brief few seconds at least, we almost named my son Axel, but that was not to be. But we did go and use Grandma's middle name is Catherine, and that's my daughter's middle name too. So we've got some links there, and obviously my middle name's David after Grandpa Dave. So and that kind of gets to what Grandma was always Grandpa and Grandma. They were a team. So I always think of them together. And so one of the things that this whole experience the last month or so has done is it's brought back a lot of memories of my grandpa. And I guess I think of Grandma as, I still had the link because of her. I still had a link with Grandpa too. And so this has kind of conjured up a whole bunch of different memories and thoughts and feelings. So it's been an interesting experience. In my life, they were a big part of my life when I was younger, and I like to think that they were always there for me and for my mom and I. They were there when I was born. We lived here in town, and my dad was away. And then, as Milo mentioned, they flew that little Cessna through the mountains to come to visit us when we were in Spokane. And there's all the holidays and weddings and special events. So then it's also been interesting the last couple of years, or several years, of being there for her. And that includes going back when she lost her husband and my grandpa. And this whole dealing with her macular degeneration where she couldn't live on her own. And it became an opportunity for me to become more present. And so we've had our, maybe not every week, but most weeks I would get together with her, and I would also include my mom was there too, so there'd be 3 generations of us visiting and sharing and telling stories, and then sometimes my kids would be there too, and then there would be 4 generations of us there. So it was pretty neat times, good memories from that time together. Just some other things about her life that I remember is their house on Quail Avenue, and there was the tire swing out back, and in the slide shows with real slides and a projector in the basements, and the metal lawn furniture that I pinched my fingers on more than once, and of course the big garage in back full of who knows how many things were back there. Lots of time spent there. And then there was the up north time when with bowstring and all the work we did clearing the trees and the brush and big bonfires, and Grandma was always the good fire starter. She could get those bonfires going when some of us couldn't.
By the fire.
By the fire. And I have lots of memories of Deep Woods Off. Lots and lots of Deep Woods Off. But then we went to Musco, which was way better. And there was the mobile home and the spring when we had a lot of wet snow and the roof collapsed. And Yenta. And then I thought of Cannibal Junction for some reason. Just random thoughts, just sharing things here. And then there was also the Bay Lake was the other up north experience. So just some other things there. And my mom mentioned the food, and that's another thing I always remember. There were always pies and cookies and $1 million cookies. I remember different cakes, and then I thought of Grandpa and Grandma liked the skin-on wieners, which I wasn't a big fan of. But the thing that really, she and I had kind of a special thing with our pancakes, and the buttermilk pancakes, and she had this recipe that she made, and she liked them to be thin and crispy around the edges and all that stuff. And so On what turned out to be her last day, I was visiting her in the hospital, and I got to hold her hand, and we had a conversation about how I'd made pancakes that morning, and they turned out just the way she liked them. And so then she looked at me, and we were holding, and she brought her other hand up. She went like this, in this kind of breathy voice with her condition, and she just, and so that's kind of the last words that we shared together. It was a real good memory to have, so that's what I had to say. So thank you.
There was the three going before me. They reminded me of so many different things. Sitting on that Naugahyde furniture in the basement, watching all of the trips. And as they grew older, Sharon, Terry, and Sue grew less amused in their trips, but they loved it. I'm Kari. I'm Thelma's granddaughter. My mother was Terry. Terry and Thelma were very close. But it has been an overwhelming gift to see how close that her other daughters have become with their mother and being right by her side before she passed. But my very favorite memories of my grandmother is when I was a very little girl. We were sitting in the house on Quail, which, by the way, if you want some pictures, I went there yesterday. I have some pictures on my phone of it. Sitting inside the house while everyone was out back, eating an enormous jar of pickled beets. Just each of us. I know, nobody liked them else, so we didn't think anybody liked them. Or she told me nobody else liked them, so we could have all of them. So we sat there together, and we ate all of those pickled beets. An entire jar, and neither of us felt well. But the thing she really hated that I ate when I was a little girl, that, by the way, I do order special on Amazon. Old Dutch onion and garlic potatoes. She'd feed those to me as a little girl, and she'd said I had the worst breath of a sailor when I was like 2 or 3 years old. I also want to tell a story that I feel very close to about my grandparents' great love. You've seen those pictures of them out there. Yes, they were gorgeous, but they were also in love. So in love. They met when she was 13 and he was 16. He was delivering groceries from his father's store. So they married, and they had a beautiful little girl named Sharon, and he went off to Pearl Harbor because he was stationed there during the war in the Navy. She made a record for him. A record of "I'll Be Seeing You." And she sent it to him, to the base. Well, there were no record players anywhere but up in the tower, right? So he went up to the tower and he said, "Hey, can you play this for me?" And he said, "Sure." Unbeknownst to him, he flipped on all the switches for the whole base to hear. And they sang, "I'll be seeing you." And she sang, "I'll be seeing you." And at the very end, she said, "I love you, Dave." And they gave him a hard time, but who could ever forget that? They would write song lyrics to each other when they would be writing back and forth from Hawaii, from Minneapolis to Hawaii. And they would write song lyrics to each other because, of course, things were constantly being redacted. And when he was coming home to her and their daughter, he wrote on the bottom, "I'll be seeing you." Which I think is just so beautiful. And so, keeping with World War II, and I'd like to say this, one more thing. Through my grandmother and my mother and the people in my family, I have been given an amazing gift of music that I love so much from pre-World War II and World War II. And because of them and the way they listened and what they listened to, I developed such an immense love for it. So, with Sharon's advice and with your assistance, I would like to lead the group in singing "We'll Meet Again" by Vera Lynn. think I'll play it just to make it easier for everyone, just a little bit, okay, guys? We'll meet again. Don't know when, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that you know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We stopped at the top. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And everyone, I got some very nice news for us as well. Lunch is served.